if the employee comes to your office, Mr. or Madam Manager, at 12 hours and they tell you, I'm done for today. I have done all the work I planned to do this day. What would you say to that employee? Let that employee go home. You can knock off, go and play golf, because they have delivered for the day. Don't tell them, no, I might think of something that you didn't plan, you didn't think of yesterday, and so on. You want to spring up issues, just like that, and that's why you want this employee to sit there and wait. It doesn't work. That is totally unproductive. We are not going to encourage that kind of thing. If you want this employee to sit here until 17 hours, then agree enough work, stretch them so that they have enough work to take them all the way up to 17 hours. But if you agree work that will only take them up to 12 hours, let them go.
If you quantify the work and you've planned,
yes.
And if you tell me the day before, say tomorrow, these are the 10 things I need you to do, I need you to finish them.
Indeed.
I will show up at 04.
Absolutely.
I will work by 10 hours, I'm reporting, this is done. And if you can tell me go home, I'll be coming for work at 04 every day.
Yeah. It encourages, employees, to come up, better ways, performing their roles so that they can finish quickly and go home. So what, do you want only to provide performance feedbacks at the end of the year, or continuously as you are moving together? Because you are working together, supervisor and the employee whose work they are supervising, and talking to each other. How are you performing? Are you sure you are moving in the right direction? I see that you're having difficulties there. Can you talk to me, please? Tell me what is happening, and so on. And that reduces issues of stress and anxieties by employees, because you are engaging throughout the year other than wait until the end of the year.
You have a 23-year-old working with a 59-year-old in the workplace, and they have to deal with their different generational issues, but still look at the end goal of the organization and what it seeks to achieve.
The presence of a person in the office does not necessarily mean they are working.
Is there
Yeah.
a fear that if I don't see you, then you're not working?
Then you are not working. That kind of thing. It's a mindset that we need to change. That work can happen anywhere now.
Hello, welcome to Money and People podcast, the show that connects the dots between financial success and the power of human capital. Today we talk about the HR landscape in Zambia, and to help me navigate this journey, I have two very distinguished guests. This is Mr. Mchotsa-Banda and Mr. Bursch Nketani. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay, and just for the sake of the audience, just for them to get to know you better, please kindly introduce yourselves and give us a brief background on your experience. We'll start with Nicholas.
Sure. I'm Mchotsa-Banda. I've been practicing HR for the last 15 years. I started off my career in the consultancy, moved on to a number of organizations. I've done Zambia Sugar, I've done Invest Trust, Citibank, Puma, and now with Rubis Energy. And yeah, it's been quite a journey. And I don't know what else to say, but still moving, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Nketani.
Yes, I'm currently a private consultant in human resource management. Before I started my consultancies, my last employer was Zambia Revenue Authority, where I was Director Human Resource. I moved to ZRIA from Barclays then, where I was also Director Human Resource. I moved to Barclays from Bank of Zambia, where I was also Director Human Resource Management. Then from Zambia State Insurance Corporation to Bank of Zambia, where I was also Director Human Resource Management. So it is a chain of companies, public as well as private companies I have worked for. Fortunately, not at really at the highest level of this profession. Yeah, and now I'm proud to say that I have spent my time since retirement trying to transfer the knowledge I have accumulated all these years to others. And that is what I hope will happen even today.
Fantastic. I want to be like you when I grow up. Director, director, director. Okay. And when you first started in HR, what was the single most important function of the department, and how has that perception changed today? We'll start with you, Mr. Nketani.
All right. I started as a tutor, if you like. My background is that, I did, my first degree was in economics, with education. But I focused on human resource planning. So when I started my human resource the function, I was a human resource planner with Indeco. And my role was to help Indeco deal with critical and strategic issues to do with HR, including the forecasting future requirements of human resource based on strategic plans, of the organization. I helped a number of HR people within the Indeco group grow in this area. My experience was that a lot of HR people focused so much on softer issues, industrial relations, basic recruitment and selection training, but the technical aspect of human resource management was being neglected. As much as people recruited, they were simply reacting to the vacancies falling as and when it happened. There was no deliberate action, to predict or, extrapolate, what human numbers, you will need at any time in the future, so that you start preparing, for your recruitment and training and everything else well in advance. So that is how, and then of course, I started, going into these other HR issues. But combining these HR issues, from my human resource planning, was the easiest thing, that happened for me. And it became, as a natural thing. And that is how I have progressed from there.
In your experience?
Yeah, so when I look back at the last 15 years when I was just starting out, I will agree with Mr. Nketani to some degree. What I've seen happen is that maybe it's also because of where I first found myself before I transitioned into more senior roles. As I mentioned before, I started my career in the HR consultancy, and our core business was recruitment, recruiting for clients and so forth. So that was our core business, and that is what we knew, right? And then I moved on to another organization, Zambia Sugar then, which employed 6,000 plus people then, right? So again, you found yourself constantly recruiting. You had to look at Ken Carters or whoever from several districts around the country whom you needed to bring together and work with and so forth. So it was a bulky exercise, but that again was something that we did more consistently. But as time went on, we saw a shift where there was greater focus on HR technology. There was more focus around HR business partnering, which I think even today are things that we are still talking about. So there has been a shift, and there's more focus around these softer skills, as they call them, that we need to learn as HR practitioners. But yes, I can safely say that there's been a transition.
Okay, all right, fantastic. And Mr. Nketani, what was the biggest challenge for HR in Zambia 20, 30 years ago?
Right.
What gave you sleepless nights back then?
The biggest challenge, over the past years was recognizing HR as a business partner. HR has always been regarded as one of those organizational functions anybody could do, not a function that was supposed to be undertaken by professionals, and that it was um, a business. It contributed so much to the business. Realizing that the most critical resource of any business is its people. It goes without saying that unless you have the best people, unless you have the right people in an organization, you don't expect that organization to go anywhere. And that is where the call for professional HR people becomes an issue, right? So it was a profile issue. HR has been fighting to raise its profile and become a business partner other than being considered to be a control factor. You are given, these soft things, you are in charge of administration, even administration that has nothing to do with human resource management. And people who were holding those positions, thought that was good enough. And HR became one of those functions that for organizations, it was neither here nor there. But now things have changed. All organizations, have realized that unless you have professional HR people in an organization, you may have serious issues. And that is what we are focusing on now.
How have you observed it? Is this something that still resonates today for you?
So So a number of organizations will, depending on their maturity levels, and because not every, it's not a one size fits all kind of situation. You find that one organization is miles ahead of another in terms of how they do things, on how they operate, and they will focus on very different things from what another will. So I'll give an example of how, and this is probably away from HR per se, where let's look at the banking sector today. You'd be surprised to hear that a few of them are even talking about branchless banking, right? Which, if you go back a couple of years ago, it was largely unheard of. It's not something that you could speak about. But you have people now talking about no need for brick and mortar in the way they operate. They can do things just online and so forth. You go to a country like Kenya, and you discover that they're hardly using cash. Yeah, there's now M-Pesa, which they are using for their transactions, which is also catching on here in Zambia, where now we have all these mobile money transactions, which are competing with the banking sector, right? So even from the HR space, I think we are getting to a point where we are somewhat recognizing that there are all these changes in the environment, and HR cannot take a back seat. You have to be at the forefront of business, understanding what the business requirements are, and model your operation from the HR space to fit into that business model. So we are changing, maybe not at the pace that we should, but we are heading in the right direction.
Yeah, I think I've seen that too. And I always say, if you have the right HR person, you you reduced on so many costs because you reduced on cost of bad hire.
Yeah.
There are certain bad people decisions which result in litigation, and if you have the right person advising you, you find that you actually get to save some money and even make money
Yeah.
off of it. And also having that right person who's really in touch of the most important resources, needs, requirements, and knowing how to navigate them, you actually find that your productivity, there is a correlation between that and productivity. I think that's what I've seen in my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what is the biggest opportunity for HR in Zambia right now that you think was not there before?
I would say it's a more educated workforce.
Mm.
And this is not to take away anything from you, Mr. Nketani, and what happened maybe 30 years ago. But I think we have a number of, if you look back at, say, the time that we were getting our independence as a country, we are told there were only 100 graduates
Yeah,
in the country,
yeah.
right? But today we have thousands. Most of them, I mean, they don't have formal jobs, and they're getting more creative in how they make their money and whatever they do. But what we also need to appreciate, and this goes back to the different generations that we are dealing with. We had a time when we were the fresh faces of the workspace, right? Millennials. I'm a millennial, and there was a certain point when I was dealing with my seniors who were baby boomers, they were Gen Z,
Gen X.
Gen X, and they would talk about how millennials were a problem. They've got no loyalty. Their work ethic is something else, and so forth. But here I am today, and I have similar complaints about Gen Zs, right? I'm saying they don't know what they're looking for. Or maybe they do know what they want, and because they know what they want, they will not bend
They're not
for anyone. They would
compromising.
rather
Yeah.
walk away, and But we we need to get to a point where we appreciate the intergenerational dynamics that exist in the workplace today, especially now that we have an extended retirement age. People are working longer. Now we are no longer looking at 55, we're looking at 60, some even 65 plus,
yeah.
right? So how do you work? You have a 23-year-old working with a 59-year-old in the workplace, and they have to deal with their different generational issues, but still look at the end goal of the organization and what it seeks to achieve. So we have an opportunity there to shape what the future looks like. And from where I'm sitting and what I see happening in the future, I see a lot of opportunity for more creativity, more flexi and remote working. There are organizations that have introduced hot desks, like where 3 or 4 people can work at the same desk on a rotational basis. So not everyone needs to be at the office at the same time. So again, going back to brick and mortar, are we going to need the offices that we have today? You are renting a 3-4-story building, whereas you could just rent, I don't know, a small apartment in North Mid or wherever, and you operate from there. So yeah, the world is changing.
And would you want to chip in?
You see now, the fact that we have more enlightened people that we are resourcing and bringing into our organizations, that complicates things for organizations. The young people we are bringing in, the more educated people we are bringing in, have, expectations that was unheard of in the past. They are asking a lot of questions and so on. And unless you have someone who understands how people work, how people behave, how someone should perform a role today, you will always be wondering what on earth is going on. Because you ask this employee, why are you coming late for work? And they will ask their own question. Why? What did you want me to do at 8 hours if I reported for work before 8 hours? Because I started work from home.
And I'm going to work in the night.
And I'm going to continue working late even in the night. So what is this that you are telling me? So, you know, and the line managers will not understand all these things happening. So they need someone who understands people. And that is why, therefore, even the formation of human resource professionals and specialists has been scaled up so that you help these other line managers and the organization understand, you know, how people work. And otherwise, you know, there will be chaos in this organization. So this is what is happening now and will continue happening going forward.
Does the enlightenment of the young ones create a fear in the more mature individuals? Because now there was a time when you give a command, I've given a command, do it, you run, but all of a sudden you're getting that pushback. Does that create some form of intimidation?
Well, our expectation is that the more educated people, you know, we bring into organizations, will have better understanding of things and how to manage the work of the people we supervise. Because it's not going to be about age. It is not going to be about status. It will just be about the contribution one is making. If I'm performing my role, I'm making the contribution to the expectation of the organization and so on, regardless of my age, regardless of status, regardless of all these other things, you know, that have nothing to do with work. This person, you know, should have the respect they deserve. So that the relationships have changed over time. Those days, you know, that relationship was about, this is an elderly person. This person has been around for so many years. You know, you should respect them. Now, respect is about the contribution one is making.
The strength and the value of the contribution that they are bringing.
Exactly.
That's where it ends.
We're on first name basis now in offices.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And how has Zambia is a unique country? I think we've all accepted that. How has our uniqueness, especially in terms of culture and business environment, shaped the way HR is practiced as compared to perhaps the Western models?
My view is that we are catching on. Maybe it's not a good thing, I don't know, but we are becoming more westernized in how we approach things. But there is still an element of Zambianness in how we do things. I recall one organization that I worked for where my HR manager then was very shocked that we were applying for annual leave for 1 or 2 days because you needed to do something, you know, you needed to be away from work to work on a family issue or whatever it might be. And he was very surprised, like, why are we mistreating ourselves? I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, no, I mean, these are things we can just talk about, and you know,
you approach me, we talk, and then I can give you some time.
Yes, I can give you some time away. And I think it's still happening in the government. I've heard a few of my colleagues in the government say, sorry for those that don't understand Bemba, but he will say things like, Nimpoka permission. It's not signed anywhere. It's not on a leave form or applied on the system or whatever. But these are things that people are doing. So maybe it's not entirely a good thing, because obviously we are stealing from the organization when we practice such things. But this, again, I guess, sort of speaks to our Zambianness in the way that we do things. But aside from that, I think generally we are becoming more westernized in our approach to things, and even the kind of policies that we have in organizations, most times we are probably just borrowing from each other. You see policies, you ask a friend from another institution, they send you theirs, you tailor them to your requirements as an institution and so forth. So yeah, we might be losing that Zambianness to some degree, but a certain portion of it is still retained.
Okay. Yeah. See similar sentiments from your side?
You see, Zambia is is a very diverse country. We are used to this concept of diversity. We have more than 70 tribes, and yet we have learned to live together as one Zambia, one nation. Working with someone from a different tribe, different province, different district, different traditions, and that kind of thing has not been an issue in this country. And therefore, even with this modernization coming now, we have companies coming from outside, outsiders and so on. Getting along with them for a Zambian is not really a huge factor because we are already used to living with diversity. And therefore, it becomes easier for us to embrace anybody, from outside. Our country is in the middle of, we're surrounded by so many other countries who come in and out of our country, and we have had no problem of why are these people coming and that kind of thing. It's a very friendly country. We have lived in peace with our neighbors. We are living in peace with our different, colleagues and whatever, if you want to call it that way. And therefore, it becomes easier for us to get along with any form of diversity that we can experience.
So our diversity has always been a strength, isn't it? Our different tribes, for instance,
Indeed.
our ability to adjust to each other. One person is Bemba or Tonga or this, but
Yeah.
we still just have somebody looking from the outside will not even know that we have that many tribes because of just the
Indeed.
way we interact.
Exactly.
We always have this tendency to find a common language.
Yeah.
Even if I don't speak your language and you
Yeah.
don't speak mine, there's a way in which we communicate and get along.
Absolutely.
And just the historic nature of the country, I think during the 70s and so on, and even in the 90s, we brought on so many people as refugees running away, and you never heard of any Zambian
discrimination of any
we
kind.
just onboarded each other, and we
Yes.
found a way to live with each other, share bread.
And they are still here.
Yeah. We never had money, but we were still happy with one another. So so our diversity is really, really a huge strength which we should run with.
Hold on to.
Yeah. I hope we are listening. And Mr. Nketani, modern HR often talks about employee experience and employer branding. From your perspective, does this focus risk coddling employees and distracting them from core business objectives?
To the contrary, it does actually. It actually strengthens that concept. Experience is a must for anyone, who wants to perform and make the contribution that is expected of them. And therefore, employer brand, everyone, is looking for the employer of choice that will blend their beliefs, their traditions, their expectations, and so on with their own. And therefore, it actually facilitates development and growth other than impeding it, in the sense. That's really all I can say about that.
Okay. And what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I agree with Mr. Nketani. It tends to strengthen us in some way because once you have a more engaged workforce, I think it's highly likely that you will get better results from them.
Yeah.
Because, for instance, as a leader, it's probably my role to ensure that I communicate the values of the organization and what we stand for and where we want to go. But at the same time, how do I carry the employee along? And that's where engagement comes in. So it can take several forms. I mean, just last week, I participated in aerobics with other colleagues. Something I would probably not be doing on a Friday. Maybe I want to have my drink after work, but it counted for something, and you can see the level of excitement in the team and how they just want to move forward. So it's those tiny pockets of experiences that collectively will build an employee who will be more closely, more aligned to the organization. And unfortunately, those are some of the things that we tend to not think about or focus on. We might be looking purely at performance. We have this template for measuring performance, and we will put in your goals and so forth. But what else happens outside that one-time event that you're dealing with that will make sure that the employee is more focused on their work? So yeah, we need to take a more holistic approach.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree from my side as well. I think these move hand in hand. I think these are things that create, from my experience, they create also a sense of belonging to an organization.
Yes.
And once you belong to an organization or a family, you want the best for it. And that starts to result in performance, in innovation as well, initiative, because you're always trying to look around for what can I do to make it better today? What can I do to make it better? And that's what that company needs. There is a common criticism of HR is that it's too soft and data driven, forgetting the human touch that was central to old school performance personnel management. How would you respond to that? Especially in a culture like ours, Zambia.
Yeah. No, I don't think that is the case really. And I'll go back to the intergenerational issues that we're dealing with today. We are living in a more informed world. There's more competition. Maybe there was competition even back in the day, but we have information on our fingertips now. So what do we do with that information, right? This is the information that will give us the opportunity to make decisions for the organization, to keep it moving forward, making sure it's a going concern into the future and so forth. So when we look at the employee who is at the center of everything that we are doing, and look at what kind of person they are, right now, the Gen Zs are entering the workspace. We have people who are now looking at AI. They know what the future looks like. We can't, in whatever we do, we can't avoid data. It is what is going to inform whatever decisions that we're going to make. So we can't call it soft. I don't think that is the term anymore. I don't know what we should be calling it, but it's just the new way of working. It's the new way of doing things. So we need to embrace the future. Yeah.
Okay. And that is what makes a difference between human resource and other organizational resources. Human resource, you're dealing, with people, and people don't behave like pigs or shovels or computers. You can do anything. You can throw it on the floor, on the ground. It will not react. Human beings do react. And human beings will only do things for a reason.
Yes.
No one does anything without a reason.
You should be worried.
If this employee wants to contribute more, there is a reason to it.
Yes.
If this person does, and therefore we need to find out what is that reason that we can then leverage and use to improve the performance of this individual.
Yeah.
So we cannot run away, from information. We want to understand this individual first, as a person, and how this person will interact with the other colleagues. You are an individual first, and then you are a team member secondly. How do you behave when you are alone and when you are with other people? If I don't have information about this individual, how would I be able to inform others about your future? Which way are you going? And you have no idea. You don't even want to know which route this person is following. But if I had that kind of information, I'll be able to inform whoever is managing the performance of this individual that I hope you know that this person is planning to exit, and therefore start preparing, yourself to replace this individual. Or this person has no intention of ever leaving. So if you think that they are sitting on others who should be taking over from them, that they are eventually, they become blockers, they will not allow anybody else to move, you should know that, so that you start coming up with alternative ways of helping this person understand that their movement will facilitate other movements.
It's an
Because
enabler.
people need to move around to give them, new experiences and so on. So information is vital, and that is what HR is about. I should know what is happening today. If I have 100 employees today, do I know what number I will still have from this number at the end of the year?
At the end of the year.
How will I know that if I'm not a number person? Because that information is important to communicate to the others so that they can prepare for that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, that is true. And modern HR tools like predictive analytics and AI in recruitment, do you see this as an efficient evolution or a dehumanizing process that could overlook great local talent? Who would want to take that one?
I'm a traditionalist, if you like, and old timer. Nothing, technology is not going to replace the human being in terms of ideas and thinking. It's still behind this machine, behind AI, behind any technology you have, there's a person. There's a person. So the background preparation, the background planning should still be done by the people who are in these roles before you feed that information, into these machines or whatever you are using to predict the future. The background information should still be prepared, by the people that are there. So these technologies are not taking over from us. They are facilitating what they are facilitators, enablers, other than threatening to take over from us. Although some people, think that eventually we may not have the same number of people, we want to use in this organization, but we'll always have people. I'll give you an example. Yeah, a trade union, Ford Motors. Ford Motors was always having problems with unions. So one day, the general manager of Ford Motors invited the union people, to come to the factory. And he took them around. At the end of that tour, he asked them, he said, "What did you see in there?" And the trade union said, I saw just machines, no people. And then the General Motors general manager says, "Now, how do you want me to organize these machines in trade union?" And then the trade unionists, they figured out, and he says, "Mr. Ford, I'm amazed, what is happening around here. But tell me, how do you make these machines buy the cars you are producing?" And Mr. Ford thought really hard and says, "Damn, this guy has a point. That's why our cars have not been selling. We are employing machines. Machines don't buy cars. It's the people.
It's the people.
But we have to enable these people, to buy the cars we are producing. And the only way is to employ them." So it is that kind of thing. Machines, yes, but machines will not replace human beings as such. They will facilitate what human beings do. Maybe things will move faster than we have done, before. Things will be smarter than it has been before, but you still have people.
You still need the
You still need the
person to
exactly
drive it. And I think, like you rightly said, what we've noticed is it just makes you work faster. It's like
indeed.
we had abacus long time ago, you're counting one by one. Then all of a sudden you have, a pen, you can do your quick formula.
Yeah,
Then now you have the calculator
indeed.
and so on and so
Get your numbers quickly.
But what remained consistent in that path
Yeah.
was there was always a human being needing to use
Indeed.
the different
The
machines
results
to
of this.
yeah. In the past, HR relied on clear top-down hierarchies and strict policies. In your push for flatter structures and flexibility, how do you maintain order and accountability?
I think it's like we've been talking about diversity and so forth. We do have flatter structures in a number of organizations these days, and well, there's the nature of the relationships in Zambia, such that we still retain a level of respect for our seniors, and we try to maintain it that way. What I've seen work in terms of accountability is just to make sure that it is clear, not from the what do I want to call it, the hardware of the HR space. You have your job descriptions, you have your job profiles, you have your performance measurements, and so forth. All those need to be in place for people to be able to have a clear picture of what performance or what the expectations are in the organization for them to achieve. So as much as you can have a light moment with your boss today, the moment of reckoning will still come, whether it's quarterly review, mid-year, year-end, and however often you do it in the institution. So that particular one is very key. It has worked wonders in most places I've been to, regardless of whether it's a flat structure or not. And unfortunately, in some instances, you find that the process is not perfected, and I'm talking about performance specifically. I once walked into an institution where almost everyone in the department was on a performance improvement plan, a PIP, except the head of department, who was rated exceptional. So now I ask myself, we usually achieve through our people, unless there are specific aspects of your job that are purely on you and are not connected to your team members. So how is it that the department head is rated exceptional whilst everyone else in the team is on a PIP? So those kind of things don't make sense, and I guess that's the reason why we need to perfect our processes as we move along. Yeah.
Flat structures facilitate efficient decision making. You don't have to wait for someone who is placed on the 10th layer of the organization to raise something. By the time it gets to the chief executive officer, it will be months, because you want things to be done like yesterday now. Efficiency is the in thing, because the demand out there is so complex now. People would want to get what you have promised them now,
Immediately,
rather than tomorrow. And therefore, decisions need to be made very, very fast. And that has led to a situation where people now are more and more empowered to make decisions previously they could not make, right? And that is good for them. That means better training, empowering people, giving people responsibility. What the boss is looking for is not how many people I supervise. It is what results am I going to get, and from who. If I can get results, from the guy I'm supervising, that's good enough. But I'm not going to wait for things, to happen for a week, for a month, and that kind of thing. So flatter and leaner structures are helping us to get things move faster than we have done in the past.
What's that doing for stress management?
We just talked about technology. So we have these enablers, that are making life easier for us. I can be doing 20 things. Because of these enablers, it looks like I have only done 2 things, because the rest have been done by automation. And things like that. That is how we are moving.
Granted, we have leaner structures, and there's a certain view that automation will do most of the work, right? But sometimes we invest in technology, but we don't really get down to the granular detail to understand exactly which portions of the employees' work have been taken away by that technology to make them work faster, make them less stressed on the job, and so forth. So we can speak about automation, we can speak about simplification, but do we really think about the employee who is at the center of all this and what it is doing for them or to them? We don't often speak about mental health, unfortunately, but you will find that there are countries such as Japan where you find, because of stress and mental issues, the high rates of suicide they are connected to the workplace and what happens there, or the level of stress that the employee has. So even in our Zambian context, we need to talk about mental health. We need to let employees know where they can get their help, and we need to create a culture where people can speak up, because we can create all these things, all these machines, they're doing this and that for us. But truth be told, in some instances, and I've been in such environments before where they say, we are simplifying, we are automating, we are doing this and that. But what you find is that the core work that gives you the most stress is still there, regardless of all these things that are happening. So yes, flatter structures work, but we need to be mindful of what it is that technology is taking away, so that the employee can work better.
Okay. And on that same point, do we see an expanded role for HR where the HR person also does become a business, for instance, a business process specialist? Because there is a dependency on HR to do organizational design, come up with the different structures. But should it then become an expanded role for HR to see the level of alignment of the structure with the technology? Because you find that would have advised and built the structures, and then the tech team would have done their tech and said, we've automated. Who's coming in to then verify that these two are in alignment? Or you find, like you've said, companies will brag about, we are automated, we're doing this, but the type of automation does not actually speak to how you've built the structure. So does that then become an HR expanded role to really be able to validate the business process and that alignment? Or how do you see it working out?
I think it's a more collaborative venture. It's not something that I would say would be restricted to HR. Yes, HR is a key strategic business partner today, and HR probably needs to understand most or all aspects of the business, even a little more than the other department heads. Because if you're going to support the business, it is critical that you understand to some degree what each of the different functions in the organizations do, so that even if there is some level of interconnectedness between them, you will be able to catch it and be able to advise on how best people can work, right? So yes, HR can be an enabler and support, but I think it's not something that HR can do on its own. I'll give an instance of one organization that I worked for, and this is slightly away from this whole issue around automation, but we had two departments or two sections within the same department that were not exactly working together like they should have. One was mechanical maintenance, the other was focused more on electrical and process delivery. So there were always snags in their processes, but each of them was working in silos. So I had to come in and help them just by understanding what each of them was doing. We were able to sit down around the table and say, listen, this is where you are both missing it, and this is where you can come together, merge your processes and work better. After that conversation, small workshop and so forth, suddenly we saw fewer breakdowns. We even hit record production that year, right? Because of just one simple tweak in a process. So, like I said, it's not something that I can say that I personally did alone. I had to work collaboratively with the two teams for us to make it happen. So in the same way, whatever we do in an organization, it won't be restricted to HR.
So HR does have a really big role to play, especially in that collaborative aspect, being able to see the gaps, because I would imagine these individuals will then come in to complain to you.
Yes.
And then you are then able to pick in conversation to start sort of drawing a pattern of where the disconnect is. And then you then go back and address it. And okay, no, that's great. And to go back to HR functions, one of them being recruitment, Mr. Nketani, recruitment used to be about newspaper ads and walk-ins. What have we lost in the move towards digital platforms, for instance, like LinkedIn? Have we lost anything?
Again, change, brings uncertainties here and there. In my view, there's really nothing that has been lost. It's just about how you go about doing these things. We've been talking about engagement, collaboration. Whatever work style, work methods, technology you are introducing, it must fit with people issues. It must be about how more effectively are you going to utilize the people that you have, and therefore you don't leave people behind. Anything that happens, you must have your people in mind. If that happens from the planning stage, you're building up, up to the end part, I see no mismatch. I see no challenges there. And therefore, and automatically, because we are talking about linking whatever you are doing, to people issues, HR should be in the midst of things. There's no way you can detach human resource from anything that is happening, because ultimately it affects how people work, how they will make their contribution. So if you do those things right from start, you should have no challenges. Those things, should work in harmony. Because, you'd have taken into account all the possible risks in terms of people issues and any other. The problem is this idea of bringing it because someone else is using this technology, this thing, and so on. We must also do this without planning, and thinking about
without thinking through it,
the consequences of what you are bringing on board.
So maybe just to add on to that point, technology has its place. Yes, you advertise for roles on LinkedIn and wherever, but the question is, when you look at your target population for that ad, You need to ask yourself whether they are likely to find themselves on that platform or not. So I'll give an example of, say, you are recruiting for drivers, for argument's sake. Yeah, and you place your ad on LinkedIn. Granted, someone who is related to a driver will
pass on the
who
message.
is maybe a senior manager somewhere will get that ad and share it with their relative and so forth. But are you going to capture enough people through that process, or are you better off still doing the ad in the newspaper or wherever? Now we have other online platforms. Maybe a driver may not find themselves on LinkedIn, but they know where Go Zambia Jobs is or wherever else. So
Exactly.
you need to be clear about where you're placing the ad, just to make sure that you get who you're looking for.
So it's not a one size fits all. You need to be able to use judgment and
Exactly.
say,
Indeed.
for these roles, you know, like you
The
talked
labor
about,
market
yeah.
for this role is this. And in this labor market, they are not that sophisticated. You may not get the best person you know that you are looking for. If you really want to get the best in class, my advice is you use this method.
Yes.
Other than that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is the weighing of the appropriate labor market for that kind of, for using that kind of technology.
And that's true. And I remember thinking in my past life, for some roles, we would post on LinkedIn, especially LinkedIn, touch of Facebook here and there. There were certain other roles, especially the lower level roles, where you then say, and if you wanted to recruit, I mean, it was branch based, so you had networks everywhere, and you want to recruit in the rural community, would actually then go and, you know, would create a physical advert and then post at the, you know, at the shopping mall, in the church,
Yes,
you know, all of those places where then the driver goes to church, the driver goes to the market, and they're able to see it, and they're then able to proceed and apply. But if you do not understand that, you just be thinking it's modern days, modern. Let's just stick to LinkedIn, and
It
you
is
find
meant for such
yes, and you're
not
not,
us.
and then you're coming back to question to say, why am I not getting quality recruitments?
Indeed.
It's where did you advertise? Do you expect to find those people?
Exactly.
Yeah. With remote work becoming a global norm, are you finding Zambian companies and employees ready for this shift? What are the unique challenges you anticipate?
I think to some degree there is still a bit of inertia. A number of companies have moved that direction. They appreciate it, and I think especially after COVID-19, we got to realize that we are actually able to work remotely. I recall those days I was at City, and for nearly 2 years I practically worked from home, right? And I mean, we were still able to deliver, we still moved and so forth. So we need to get to that point. I think the one thing that we should not lose is still some level of physical presence, because as much as you may be away from the office, you have your Teams or Zoom meetings and whatever it might be, you still need to interact with your colleagues. And it's important, especially for the kind of culture that we've been brought up in here in Zambia. We value relationships, and physical relationships are very important for us. So I would not entirely, and maybe I'm still old school to some degree when I compare myself to a Gen Z, I will not likely favor a purely remote work unless it's really across geographies. But if you are all in Lusaka or Kitu or wherever your office might be, at the very least meet once or twice a week. It doesn't have to be a full remote work.
So you're pro blended workforce. So 2 days
Hybrid,
office, hybrid, 2
hybrid,
days
I
office,
think
3 days home.
makes sense.
Okay, and what are your thoughts on that?
It's a cultural shift, and people need to be prepared for this kind of change. Otherwise, it'll just collapse in our faces. People need to begin to understand that we don't pay employees for attendance.
No.
We pay employees for the contribution they are making. Where is this contribution made from? In the office or it can be anywhere. And that is why human resource people brought in the element of performance management, which we'll be talking about a little later.
Yeah.
Performance management, you agree well in advance the expectations of the organization, about this employee, what is it that you are going to achieve this year? And how are you going to do it? And by what time? Once those things are agreed, all that remains of the supervisor is to monitor what is happening. And therefore, does reporting for work in time matter? And yet, unless this employee has something to do at 8 hours at the office, which cannot be done at home. Right? So we need to adjust all other processes, all other systems. Our codes still have late coming is punishable. But why do we want people to come at 8? No one will give you a right answer. What did you want this person for at 8? Because this person reported at 9 and they delivered
more than the guy who came in at 8.
So what else did you want from this person? Other than so a lot of other things, must change before, we advance to those levels. But yeah, it is something, we need to tread carefully and gradually, other than plunge into that kind of thing, before we prepare people's minds so that they understand why this thing is done, particularly the line managers, so that they understand that the presence of a person in the office does not necessarily mean they are working.
Is there
Yeah.
a fear that if I don't see you, then you're not working?
Then you are not working. That kind of thing. It's a mindset that we need to change. That work can happen anywhere now.
All you have to do is just set the target.
Yeah.
Check in, see if they're being met. And if somebody is struggling, you can have the conversation.
Absolutely.
And see what's going on. And if you do establish that, yes, when the person is not around, they're always playing,
then you have no problem.
Yeah.
It's this engagement and communication. Talk to your employee. Tomorrow, I'll need you at 8 because we have this thing to do. But if it isn't, this person could have passed through the library or some client to sort out some issues before coming to the office.
Yeah.
So we are so which model works best? Are we talking about fully remote, fully in the office, or a blended approach?
A balance.
A balance.
An appropriate balance between remote and physical presence in the office, depending on
the nature
of the work, because I do know
someone is doing.
Yes, I do know, for instance, in banking, if you're a cashier, you can't cashier from
You
home,
can't
unfortunately.
from home, indeed.
Yeah. But also speaking to that, and I think that's one of the challenges I had to deal with at some point. We did create COVID sent everybody at home, but we couldn't do that for cashiers. What strategies can an organization then bring in to make people not feel left out? How would you... So I'm a cashier. I would also want to work from home if I could, but I can't. And I feel bad about it because my colleagues are working from home. What is it that HR can then do to make you not feel left out? In a model where it's impossible, even things like manufacturing, for instance, where you're supposed to be there. How does HR then still create that environment where nobody's feeling left out, even with the change of working arrangements?
Yeah, because HR, I know, will advise on anything depending on the situation. If your customers, because at the end of anything, is the customer who determines, what you are going to do.
Yes.
If the customer says, we don't mind this and not that, then you probably take it. But if the customer demands, the physical presence of the cashier, then you have a problem. You may have to start to know the customer. Sensitize the customer first of what is going to happen. For cashiers, as long as you want people to come to the banks, it becomes a challenge. Unless you want to popularize, ATMs, so that there is absolutely no need for someone, to walk into a bank unless
they really have
there
to.
is something really, and we're already beginning to do that.
With
Fewer
alternative
and
channels.
fewer people now are
walking
into banks because of ATMs. And flexi time, introduce the method of flexi time. If the cashier, if you close cashiering, say about 15 hours, the cashier's job is more or less done. Do you want them to stay on until 17 hours? What for?
I mean, once they just finish reconciling and close their till.
Exactly, and those reconciling, quickly, and then everything goes to the back office.
Yeah.
And it's the back office people, that take over from there. And that's why we say back office people don't need to report at 8.
Because the bulk of their work will be in the evening, will be later on in the day.
Later on in the day.
So what is the person doing at 8 hours?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think also as we are moving away, especially if we're talking about the banking sector, you hear people talk about teller implants now, where you now remove the cashier from the whole process and so forth. Maybe, and again, this is not something that HR can do on its own, but collaboratively with others. What alternative work would be there for such individuals within organizations? And those are the kind of questions we should be asking ourselves.
A country like ours with high unemployment rates.
Yeah. Because the last thing you want is to introduce that technology and remove people from their jobs, and suddenly they don't have anything going for them. So
you need to still comes down to strike a healthy balance.
Exactly.
Yeah. In performance management, of course, we've always had annual performance reviews traditionally. Mr. Nketani, what was its greatest strength that we might be losing with continuous feedback?
Hardly any. It might have worked for certain organizations then, but appraising an employee once a year does not give you an opportunity to manage the performance of this employee continuously through the year. And it caused a lot of stress and frustrations by employees who only received their feedback at the time their work for the year is being appraised. That means at the end of the year. What happens, at the beginning of the year and during the year is all kept pending until the end of the year. That is when the feedback is given. Will that feedback be of any value to this employee given so many months after it has happened? It doesn't. And that is why, again, it was the ingenuity of human resource people who thought of the idea of, I think it's about time, we introduced the new approach. Performance management. Managers, line managers should be given to understand that performance should be managed continuously. People are working all the time, 50 weeks in a year. So do you want only to provide performance feedbacks at the end of the year, or continuously as you are moving together? Because you are working together, the supervisor and the employee whose work they are supervising, and talking to each other. How are you performing? Are you sure you are moving in the right direction? I see that you're having difficulties there. Can you talk to me, please? Tell me what is happening, and so on. And that reduces issues of stress and anxieties by employees, because you are engaging throughout the year, other than wait until the end of the year. So really, the only value you can give to performance appraisals was that at least there was an assessment of performance. Whether it happened continuously or at the end of the year, there was a realization that, performance review should be done at some point during the year. But once a year didn't work. And that's how we came to the continuous one.
Mr. Nketani, you make a good point, and I just recall a certain chapter earlier in my career where, yes, the targets and the goals were set, but then we were so much focused on new endeavors in the business, which were very critical for where we were heading. We were focusing more on talent management, succession planning, talent reviews, and so forth. So I found myself in a space where I did so much work in that area and somewhat neglected certain aspects that appeared in my goal setting and so forth. So when year end came, and here I am very proud of myself with so many achievements on the other side, but then my boss looked at me and said, look, this is what we set at the beginning of the year. How much of this did you achieve? But I was like, but look at what I did on the talent management side. And he says, that's not your job. As much as it had great impact for the organization, it wasn't my job. And I think that was among the worst ratings I ever got in my career.
Exactly.
So yes, it's very important to have continuous performance management, periodic reviews, and so forth, as opposed to waiting until the end of the year.
I actually think it also helps strengthen the relationship within the organization, because you're always on the same page. You know what the next person is thinking as well. You're talking to each other. Another thing which I sort of tend to notice, I've developed a theory which I think I've proven right, I should write about it, is usually when there's a disconnect, it's one of two things. The manager is a problem, the employee is a problem, or the things that were agreed upon are a problem. But if there was a problem in that space and you had a strategy and you're working, if you're then going to wait until December, so much damage would have been done. Exactly. But you're able to nip that in the bud if you start early, so that you start to see, even when you are talking and you notice, you sense there's a disconnect earlier on, after month one, you review and say, okay, let's go back. What's going on here?
Do we need to tweak?
What do we need to tweak? Let's move on. I had one instance where just a simple change, for versus of, caused a steer. Just that, for versus of, changed the whole meaning of a key deliverable in an organization. But if that wasn't identified early, and if you waited for December, that
you would not have made your contribution for the year.
And I think it also helps in terms of boosting productivity, because you find the more you're talking about, especially performance related and deliverable related conversations, you find that in as much as at the start you're estimated that this task might take 4 months, the more you're talking about it, the more you're prioritizing, you find you finish it in a month and a half, and you're like, we can add on some more. We can do this, we can change that. Shifts in the economy, shifts in, different transactions. My favorite example always in banking was when Bank of Zambia changed their directives. Was it 2018? There was some process with check processing and so many activities. And you find a situation where somebody has been employed, or unwarranted charges. Somebody was employed to do specifically all of those things which Bank of Zambia said you shouldn't do. What happens at the end? You're going to be fined. The person was doing meaningless work, and so on. So I think that continuous conversation it's a huge win.
It is.
Ultimately.
It does.
Productivity-wise, relationship-wise, it's a huge win.
It gives you an opportunity to coach this person. When do you coach this person other than during the process? Because that's when you're identifying whatever is not happening well and so on, and you keep reminding this person. If they have achieved something, tell them that this is well done.
Congrats,
I would
celebrate
like
them.
you to continue this way going forward. If anything is not working like you said, you halt, say, look, is this action that we agreed working? No. Can you think of an alternative before we get there, so that you don't stray, you don't fail? The idea is not to allow a situation where people fail at the end of the then you're a bad teacher. You're a bad coach. If this employee fails, you have also failed.
Yes.
Yeah.
No question about it.
Yeah.
Because your results are seen in the results of this employee whose
people,
performance you are managing.
Yeah, true. And I remember one other incident where we had performance discussions, to the appraisal period, and now we're discussing, results. And there was this employee, the manager was so convinced this person was brilliant. Everybody was just saying, no, this person doesn't do anything. And it was a back and forth, no, 5 stars, 0 stars. And so I said, okay, let's beam their scorecard on the screen, let's see what they do. What we found was both parties were right. The person was brilliant. It's just that the work they were doing was irrelevant.
Absolutely.
So, but the thing is, they waited to end of year. Had those conversations been taking place, people would have sat and said, okay, let's fix this. We're not, this person is good, but we're not drawing any value from them. Can we fix a line? So, and also the organization ultimately lost on that one employee, because an organization expects each employee from the lowest to the highest to be bringing a certain value. So the moment one person is misaligned, that's how much value is taken away from that organization. Multiplied by how many employees are misaligned, and you find only 5 people are working. And not because you have bad people, you haven't been talking. And that's what it does. And how do you implement and sell a concept like continuous feedback in a culture where direct criticism can sometimes be seen as disrespectful?
I think, again, it comes back to the culture of the organization, the values the organization stands for, and who are the sponsors of this process, right? And you have to be a credible sponsor. So if you're going to talk about continuous performance management, it has to start from the top. It can't be something that you just talk about, but the teams around you don't see you walking the talk. So if you're the CEO of the organization, if you are the head of HR or head of any other department within the organization, you have to be at the forefront of the process, and you have to be the one that explicitly initiates these conversations, even if it's a 360-degree appraisal and you are going to get some negative comments from your peers and others within the team. I think it's a necessary process. But what is key is the credibility of the initiators of the process. That is very important.
A critical aspect of avoiding such clashes is preparation. Don't dump something, on employees without explaining what this is about. Preparation is absolutely critical. How were these people prepared to change the mindset? They must remember, what I said earlier, people do things for a reason. So what reason are they giving? It starts from that preparation. What are you telling them? What is this coming to do? What is what contribution, what part are we going to play in achieving this? That preparation is absolutely cardinal. Every employee who is going to be affected by this new concept must be educated, must be sensitized, must be oriented. Take them through the process. No one should be left behind. Take them through the process so that they understand. And ensure that the promise you are making is actually met. Otherwise, this thing will not work. When you tell them, we'll pay you according to your contribution, that must happen.
Must happen. Build trust.
It has to happen.
Credibility.
Otherwise this whole process will just collapse.
I agree. And how has the relationship, this is now talking to employee relations, how has the relationship between HR and labor unions evolved in Zambia? Mr. Nketani, was the more adversarial path sometimes more straightforward?
Well, we did say at the beginning that now we are dealing with more enlightened employees, right? Employees that have gone to school. And when you are dealing with someone that has gone to school, there is no excuse for doing things that are not right. In the past, we dealt with people that had only humble education. Their language was simply, this is how I feel. This is, my wish, and that kind of thing. Now there's no room for that. The employees you're negotiating with are employees that can do numbers, that can add, that can subtract, that can do things. So what excuse do they have to come to the table and just talk about, this is our feeling? You don't go for negotiations with feelings. You go for negotiations, with facts and data, solid data. And today's employees will collect that data and submit at the negotiating table.
Yeah.
That makes negotiations manageable, because you're talking figures, you're talking data, other than just words.
There's no
politics.
there's no militants. It's just numbers.
Exactly. And again, it's something that you constantly have to remind them, with your colleagues. If you're looking for a 20% increase, you must tell me where it is coming from. Not, but inflation has gone up by 20%. That 20% inflation doesn't mean prices have gone up by 20% from last year.
Yeah.
No. The actual increase in prices from last year to the estimated, to the end of this year is only 2%.
Yeah.
So if you want us to talk about cost of living, then we should be talking about 2% and not 20%. You know why? Check your figures. But in the past, they will not understand that kind of language. That is for you, not for us. We just want 20%.
And end it there.
And
Our
that
friends
kind
have
of
gotten 20, so
Exactly.
figure it out where to
Yeah.
come from. Fire a few directors.
They didn't
we
have
save,
that
we save some money.
level of knowledge and understanding and analytical skills. No, nothing.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, I totally agree with him. I think even as far back as the time I was starting out in my career, we did have a more adversarial approach, but I think with the evolution of time, there's been more a change towards a more consensus building kind of approach, where you sit down around the table, you look at your numbers.
Business-like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Other than, talking politics.
You talk about how much revenue you made in the previous year,
Exactly.
how that looked at the bottom line,
Yeah.
what you can afford as an institution, and
Indeed.
so forth. We still
What
have
other people are paying.
we still have a couple of militaristic unionists out there who will still want that adversarial approach.
Indeed.
But I don't think it's ideal in
today's world.
No,
No,
it
you
doesn't
won't last.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't.
No.
It doesn't work. And I think sometimes the pressure that the guys in the union will get is their membership telling them, the guys in the past would demand, and they would lock the doors and do this. You guys are weak. But I think it takes me back to one of my last union negotiations I had. It was in banking. And so, of course, management prepared their fancy tables and charts, and they did a comparator. Oh, these banks made so much. They made, these banks which gave 20% made 2 billion, and this, let's not name names. And then, so this guy then comes and says, yes, so that bank made 2 billion, correct. How much money was availed to the bankers, so to say, to make that much money? And when so their starting capital to do the work was in billions as well. So if you look at, so they computed the efficiency of it, where they said, look, these guys were given 5 billion, they've only made 2 billion. You gave us 200,000, we've made 1.8 billion.
Yeah.
So who's been more effective? Who's been harder working? And so
For
you
sure.
then see the management team, looking funny.
Yeah.
And then, fast forward, there was another element where they then computed what was called this salary increment they were proposing, and they, management put in funny figures, When I, okay, let's not go there, but when I saw it, I also looked and said, what was that? And then they put in things like overtime is this and this. And so the guys then came in and said, but we don't, how do you put overtime in a salary? And how do you put this and how do you put that? And sorry to say, but it was a whitewash. The union guys really came prepared. And if you look at it, it went back to the education. I think one of the guys in the union had a PhD. These guys were, masters in risk and computers. And so the guys were brilliant.
Yeah.
And those are the sort of people that you're dealing with, such that you can't really strong arm people anymore. And you can't think that you can't think you're the only ones as management with access to information.
Exactly.
Information is out there. And the beauty about
all the banks,
it's published
they
information.
publish their financials.
So you then find that these guys, because you're assuming, this is how we used to do with strong arm and just present a PowerPoint and confuse them. They actually spend sleepless nights creating their counter documents, such that when you go there, you really look disorganized if you're not prepared. But I think the spirit of it, where I'm seeing it going, and I'm hoping that's where it's going, it's just the level of intellect that's coming in and replacing the militancy, where we're able to talk, and once you go out, you're all satisfied to say, look, even if we didn't get the 12, but if you look at the facts that were laid out, you can see that yes, this is actually reasonable, and it's enough to sustain us, and we can actually bring more money. So
Indeed.
actually, from my observation, I think that change for me has really been exciting, as opposed to we're going to lock up your office. And no. With modern HR focusing on culture and engagement, is there a risk of downplaying the critical importance of legal compliance and handling serious disciplinary issues with the necessary rigor?
I don't believe that is the case. I don't think so. I think culture is very important, and probably if how you build your culture will also determine what kind of risks you are going to work with in an institution. So if, say, for instance, you've built a positive culture of camaraderie and accountability and so forth, it's highly unlikely that you are going to have a lot of disciplinary matters that you have to deal with. For instance, if people are accountable, I don't think that you have too many risks that you're dealing with, because people will know what they need to do, and they'll be able to be a brother's keeper even in the workplace. So I think these things go hand in hand, and overall I think culture is probably the pillar at the base of all these things that we are dealing with. Indeed. So in my view, I don't see a challenge there. I don't see an issue. As long as you build a positive culture, you emphasize the values of the organization, you as well as alert people to what the implications are. If they don't abide by what the expectations are, then I think you're home and dry.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's not as if these values are just dumped, on the staff. These are our values, and you must adhere to these values or else. No, these values, are discussed, and with the staff. The staff made their contribution. They participated in the formation of these values. This is the way we want to do things around here. If we are all agreed, it reduces elements of conflict, frictions here and there. If anything, it will facilitate compliance other than drive those apart. For me, those two are complementary, really. This is the way we want to do things around here, and if you behave, you conduct yourself according to what was agreed, and this message is constantly driven, stuff, and that is why performance management, constant feedback, continuous feedback includes reminding employees that if you're going to collect tax from that taxpayer, don't threaten them because you still need that taxpayer tomorrow.
Exactly.
Right? Use the language that is friendly, that will encourage this taxpayer to understand, why they have to pay tax. That way, next day, you will have no problem extracting tax from that person. You will not even go to them. They will come
to you.
to you.
Yeah.
That is what happens.
Yeah, I think for me, in reflection, I think another critical component which sometimes organizations struggles with is the aspect of consistency of treatment of staff. Once these issues of legal compliance, disciplinary, if you're going to pick your favorites and they're untouchable, and then others you are being punitive and so on, you're going to just create a certain confusion or rebellion.
Exactly.
So if you are seen to have a certain culture and the employees are engaged and you're talking to them, and the things that I think you spoke about, maintaining the promise and the trust, and you're seen to be consistent. I think for me, the moment you're consistent, you find yourself dealing with fewer problems.
Absolutely.
Much.
Absolutely.
I sometimes get the sense the organization even becomes on a positive path of autopilocy. If that's a word, pilocy, I don't know. Or autopilot. But I think if you have the right culture, you also focus on your engagement and you are consistent in your treatment of people. Someone will know to say, I'm not special and so on. And if I go astray, this is going to happen. But if someone then has a sense of feeling they can take a gamble, no, if I can do this, no one will touch it, no one will touch me. When he did that, that level of confusion, I think it brings those problems.
Indeed.
In the human element in the future, for both, what is the most important human skill an HR professional in Zambia must have, regardless?
I'm not certain whether you could call it a skill, but let me take a stab at it. I'll say intelligence, and I'll qualify it. I'll pick a definition of intelligence that I got from my first year psychology class, which was 2 decades ago. It says, and this is by psychologist David Wexler. It says intelligence is the global or aggregate capacity of the individual to think rationally, act purposefully, and deal effectively with the environment. Yeah, so it's got those 3 aspects. So the question for the HR practitioner, are you acting intelligently? Yeah, are you setting aside emotion when it is relevant for you to apply reason? Right? Yes, we are human, and we obviously, by the very nature of our jobs, there has to be a human element to it, but you need to be able to separate emotion from reason and do the right thing when it calls for. That's one aspect. The second is purpose. Are you acting purposefully? Like, what are the goals of the organization? What is the organization trying to achieve? And are you moving with the organization to achieve what it has set out to? So what is your purpose and what do you exist for in the organization? Why have you been placed there, right? And you need to ensure that you fulfill that purpose. And the third is dealing effectively with the environment. Are you adaptable? Are you able to change with the times when it's called for you to be able to deliver, not just for the employee, but for the organization as well? So for me, I'll call it intelligence. Yeah.
Should write
Human
it down
resource management is multidisciplinary. If you want to become an effective and professional human resource manager or person, you must be able, and it's close enough to what my brother here is talking about. You must be prepared to learn what is happening elsewhere in the organization. If you're going to provide appropriate advice, all the functionaries, you must learn what is happening elsewhere. HR should, migrate from being perceived as a control function to a business function.
Mm-hmm.
That you are there to support the business, because the most critical resource the business uses is the people, right? And you are expected to be the person who understands how people work in an organization. So you must be able to learn what goes on in all the departments to advise them appropriately. If you're wanting to recruit someone in that area, in your function, my advice is that we employ this tool other than that tool, which we use for that other department. Without that knowledge, where do you start from? Where is your advice? So it is that other than HR, and HR should be at the table of all strategic management discussions to be able to advise. Talk about vision. If you're going to come up, with a vision that is detached from what people perceive to be what we were employed to do, you are in trouble. Employees, should be able to translate that vision and internalize it, so that at the end of the day they understand why things are happening. Even the mission itself, why they have to report for work every day to do this, and it's part of this culture we're talking about. So yes, live up to that feat of human resource management is multidisciplinary. Understand, what this organization is all about, all the functions, not technically, not professionally, but just that understanding, what is going on there, for you to provide the appropriate advice. That way, you become useful.
And read a lot.
Yeah.
Yes, that is part of the knowledge.
Yeah. I think it's important to read a lot, because some of the criticisms I think HR people get is they'll go into a meeting and sort of just sit in a corner.
Yeah.
Or take minutes. Very good at taking minutes. And they're saying, is this all you can
Completely
do?
detached from what
Very,
is
very,
being discussed.
Yes. Probably they are the ones who are even thinking, let's go for lunch. 2 hours is a long time and stuff like that. But you're saying you have to be part of the business. Sort of, you need to understand, like exactly like you're saying, understand what is going on. Make suggestions based on your experience. And there have been times where, back in banking, I would sit with the business and they're saying we need 10 more recruits and so on. And then you sit and say, do you really need those 10?
That.
And the guy would say yes. And then I remember one instance where I then showed him, say, look, these are your financial statements. These are your financials. Your operating expenses are so high.
Indeed.
An HR person needs to know the financials.
Exactly.
So I showed him, say, you are running at a loss as we speak, and you want to recruit more people. Can you not reorganize how you do your work?
Indeed.
What was funny is 2 months down the line, I received a call from the same guy who says, I have 2 excess staff. This is a guy who wanted more people. And he comes and says, after we made those tweaks, I have people I need to get rid of because my cost is high. But even I've done an assessment. When I remove these 2, we'll still be able to do the functions that we're currently doing. And so that's sort of the level and type of conversations that HR needs to have. It's a journey. You don't have to be an expert from the get-go, but it's kind of like those are conversations that I think business expects of us, but we are busy taking minutes. And looking at the modern HR professional, Mr. Nketani, this is for you. What one modern practice do you genuinely admire or wish you had at your disposal early in your career?
Well, I'll tell you that the introduction of performance management has changed things completely. And I wish we had performance management right from
the get-go,
and not performance appraisal. Because, we talked about engagement. It brings employees and their managers closer because they are talking to each other. So it builds relationships. And then employees begin to realize why they need to do certain things, right? These expectations. Now there's a move. You don't do these things, at the end of the year. You agree everything from start of the year. If we are able to meet this trigger as an organization at the end of this year, this is what is going to happen. The person who performs exceptionally or who exceeds performance should expect this reward. The person who meets expectations should expect this reward. If you fail, you should expect 0. And this information is given at the beginning of the year, other than at the end. That's when you tell, following our year's performance and this order, we're happy to inform you that those that exceed will get so much. This information should have been communicated to them at the beginning of the year, so that people have reason to make the contribution that they have promised.
True.
Other than at the end. That makes it. So performance management for me has changed the face of human resource management and even organizational performance, because now it starts with the employee. You have empowered the employee. You have given this employee the responsibility. You have made employees become accountable for whatever they do, right? And that changes the whole geography of management in organizations.
Any addition?
Yeah, I think generally I'll agree with him in terms of the evolution and what we've seen over the years. I think we are moving in the right direction, in the sense that if we're talking about performance management, it's more engaging. There are no surprises, as long as you're doing it the right way.
Exactly. And being informed
of
how you are doing along the way.
Yes,
and I like the part where you talk about there are no surprises. You
Exactly.
know. So
Exactly.
if it's being genuine, there's no one fixing you. And you can tell, like you talked about your words knowing in advance, you can tell that I'm not going to get this right. I need to step up.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's what's key. Just constant engagement. The person knows where they're at, how their performance is being viewed, and so forth, as opposed to at the end of the year, you're surprised that you're not getting a bonus.
Or if you do, it is so small. You mean this is the bonus? You said you get bonuses. No, but communicate. The level. At Barclays we did it very well.
Yeah.
I mean, because we set the threshold. If we meet this threshold, and it's really up to all of us, if we meet this threshold, this is what is going to happen. And this is the bonus you should expect.
Yeah.
That level of clarity is just, do organizations maybe fear? So let's just say, but I like your concept, but do organizations then fear announcing bonuses in advance to say, but what if we make a loss?
They should know. If we make a loss, we will not get these things.
So
isn't that simple?
So what I've seen work well for some is to assign different levels of bonus based on certain aspects of the work environment, if I should call it that. So, for instance, you say your bonus, if you perform at this level, plus the business also performs at this level, you can expect such and such a bonus, maybe 100% of your pay or 200 or whatever it is. But certain portion maybe will be met by the bottom line, EBITDA or whatever it is. 10-20% will be made by your individual performance, 30% by group performance, or whatever it might be. But it has to be clear that
clearly announced, communicated to staff
each portion
right from start.
And it also becomes a huge responsibility for business to also communicate, perhaps on a monthly basis, this is where we are.
Exactly.
This is where, and I think from experience in organizations, I think that's the one missing piece.
Yeah.
where we don't communicate, say this to the wider staff, of course.
Yeah.
Or we say
Indeed.
this month we have made, I know with the banks it's published, but with other organizations, how much effort are they then making? Say this month our target was 10 million, we've met this.
Nice.
This is what we need to do.
Those are the things that should be discussed, in senior management meetings. And when you leave that meeting, you go and communicate that information to your departmental staff so that everyone is in the know.
And that is where things like town hall meetings come in
Yes.
handy, maybe led by the MD or
Yeah,
whichever senior
something
leader,
like that. So on
where
quarterly basis,
all these things are discussed so that
communicated.
generally people know where they are and how they stand.
Indeed.
And there would be senior leadership will also be amazed with the level of feedback that they get.
They
So
get.
you find this is what we're doing, we're struggling. And you find a simple person down there says, but what if we tried that?
Yeah,
You get that information from the grassroots.
indeed.
Communication and engagement. Yeah.
And it builds, and facilitates teamwork.
Yes, it does.
We can only do this if that other department performs. Because, what we do depends on what they produce.
Yeah, and it takes me back to my early days in FNB when I joined. We had a CEO. He had created a target. It was called 5555. Being the fifth largest bank, I think a profit of 55 million in the fifth year, something like that. 55. Fifth largest 5 years with a profit of 55 million. And I think it was every week there was something called, his name was Saro. There was something called from Saro's desk. It was that this is how much we've made. We're behind. This is how much we've made. We worked. It didn't matter if you're HR. You
can imagine, yes.
We worked until the funny thing is we met the target before year 5.
The end of, indeed.
We met it because and he got the quote from Finding Nemo, all together one direction. No, we moved together in one direction. And you could see the value of that communication, especially coming from the CEO, and that constant drive, the passion that he had. When he wasn't happy about something, he would still communicate. There was also words of encouragement and so on.
Indeed.
We beat the deadline. So, yeah.
Good.
Wow.
And Nicholas, what is the one enduring lesson or principle from Mr. Nketani that you believe is timeless and should never be abandoned?
I think it's probably the ability to go beyond your comfort zone. I mean, he just mentioned to us that his background was in economics, right? And it was more of a focus more on planning than anything else. But he was able to broaden his horizons and go into HR full-time. And that is where he finds himself today. And maybe to some degree, that is something that we don't see as much. People just being able to go outside their comfort zone and explore. So for me, that is timeless. It's something that is worth emulating.
Everything you said, I've adopted. And let's fast forward 10 years. What would be the most significant trend shaping the future of work in Zambia? And how must HR prepare for it now? Who wants to take that one first?
I'll go first. The future of work. Like we've mentioned before, I mean, we have a more informed workforce now compared to 30, 40, 50 years ago. And so we can, specifically as HR, we cannot be seen to be lagging behind in terms of being data-driven, having information on our fingertips, and just knowing how we are going to work with the different people that we encounter. We've also seen, like, again, we discussed before, the people are sort of living longer now. They are also working longer. So you now need to be clear on how you're going to deal with the intergenerational aspects of the work environment, how you manage performance in remote environments. Those are going to be very critical. In fact, I think we are already dealing with them now, but they will be even more heightened going into the future. how we organize our workspace, whether we do need brick and mortar in everything that we do. So yeah, I think that's how the future looks.
Okay, and thank you.
In fact, we touched this, earlier. Change in culture, change in, work culture, values, and so on. More and more people want to spend less time at work and have more time, leisure. How do we manage that kind of situation? Who would want to spend 8 hours at work, right? I encourage the situation at Barclays. I said, if the employee comes to your office, Mr. or Madam Manager, at 12 hours and they tell you, I'm done for today. I have done all the work we planned. I planned to do this day. What would you say to that employee? My advice was, let that employee go home. You can knock off, go and play golf. Because they have delivered for the day. Don't tell them, no, I might think of something that you didn't plan.
You didn't think of yet.
You didn't think of
was it
yesterday.
Then was it that
and
important?
So on, you want to spring up issues, just like that. And that's why you want this employee to sit there and wait. It doesn't work. That is totally unproductive. We are not going to encourage that kind of thing. Let that employee go. If you want this employee to sit here until 17 hours, then agree enough work, stretch them so that they have enough work to take them all the way up to 17 hours. But if you agree work that will only take them up to 12 hours,
it's on you.
Exactly. Let them go.
Might actually boost productivity now.
Absolutely.
If you quantify the work and you've planned,
yes,
and if you tell me the day before, say tomorrow, these are the 10 things I need you to do. I need you to finish them.
Indeed.
I will show up at 04.
Absolutely.
I will work by 10 hours. I'm reporting this is done. And if you can tell me go home, I'll be coming for work at 04 every day.
Yeah.
And
it encourages, employees, to come up, with better ways, performing their roles so that they can finish quickly and go home. That kind of thing.
Because sometimes I think employees, the longer they stay, they're just there's that concept Parkinson's where now
it's just presentism.
Yes, it's just presentism. So if you give them the task to say, and you've created a notion, say you should work from 7 to 20, they'll do that one task. They'll find a way to do it from 7 to 20 and finish.
Exactly.
The same task, if you tell them when you finish you can go, they'll do it in 30 minutes.
Indeed.
So which one do you then find is more beneficial for you? And especially the employer branding we're talking about, being an employer of choice. If I can then go and brag to my friends, say, this is how we work. So long as you've delivered, there's that flexibility for you to do other things. You're going to find a lot more people wanting to come to work at that organization.
Exactly.
As opposed to, no, we just sit at our desks.
Waiting for 17.
Waiting for 17. And everyone's like, then what?
Indeed.
And also, I think we've talked about how educated the workforce continues to become.
Absolutely.
They're always finding faster, better, smarter ways of doing things. And
rather than spend 8 hours, you can do things, within 2 hours, within 3 hours. You have become more efficient. And still earn the same salary,
exactly.
you would get by being at work 8 hours.
The whole day.
And it just becomes more frustrating. And the person, as opposed to making them harder working, you find you actually kill their desire to be productive.
Absolutely.
And to bring out more.
To be innovative and change
and 8
things.
hours is a long time.
It's a long time.
That's a third of your day.
Exactly.
Yes.
A third of your life.
How much time do you have, with your family?
Yep.
You're hardly there. By the time you get home, the children are sleeping.
And with ergonomics, some of the furniture companies are buying, they're just damaging to the back.
Yeah.
So, What is your single most important piece of advice for a young Zambian just starting their career in HR today? I know there was a commissioning of the HR fraternity, was it on the Copper Belt yesterday? And they're very, very young, smart, ambitious, professionals and up and coming. What advice do you have for those guys?
I can start you that, since I'm the one that we need to ground them without grinding them. They need to know that take time to learn. Take time to learn and gain experience before you can run. You see, the problem, is that, you are from school straight and you want to be manager. When you were at school, you may not have learned what the job of a manager is about.
Yeah.
Right? So we need to ground you so that you learn the basics before you take off, without grinding you. Because grinding, this person, what, this is what happens, and that you frustrate this individual and then leave. So yeah, it is that kind of thing. They need to understand that there's a process. Some of us started that way, being humble. I was a counterpart when I started to someone who, was knowledgeable, who had it all, and learned from this person. So by the time, I got into a substantive role, I had, what it took to play the game. And that is how we have made our contributions since then. So that is critical, because, let's face it, the quality of education, particularly, in the recent years, has fallen a bit. So really, the person, you are calling graduate is not yesterday's graduate. And you see it, when you're doing interviews. Are you sure you have done your first degree? Yes. And it becomes a problem. I had a class, where I was teaching human resource planning, and you bring all these complex equations, how you can make forecasts and that kind of thing. And someone raised, an arm in that class and they say, "Sir, are you telling me that this is through human resource management?"
Yeah, wow.
You get the point. So you learn most of those things, on the job. And that is why coaching becomes critical. And the need for managing the performance of your staff, so that, you can pass to them useful techniques, methods, procedures, and that kind of thing. Coaching becomes handy.
Okay, so for me, what would I like to tell a young and upcoming professional in the HR space? The way I see it, I think it's very important, first of all, to not just focus on HR, but to learn how the business operates. Because you, as an HR practitioner, you cannot, like he put it, where you're talking about HR planning and someone is shocked because there are numbers there. You cannot run away from numbers, and HR, modern day HR at least, is not where is not the space you want to go to if you are going to run away from numbers, because we are going to talk about your turnover rate, we are going to talk about productivity, the cost of employment, and all of those things, and there will be numbers there, and you need to appreciate those numbers. That's one. Two, like I mentioned before, you need to be out there and not just focus on your forte. I'll give an example of a conversation I had with some intern not too long ago. So this guy is from the finance department, an intern there. And then we were like, let's transfer you to another department where we feel you could add value. Not that you're not doing something right in finance, but I think you appreciate this experience. And the guy was just like, "No, but I'm an accountant. I can't do this. I'm not ready. I'm not willing." Right? Yeah. But then in my mind, and I did speak to him about this, I said, look, if you look at the people, and a good number of people who've ended up as CEOs of organizations, their path was not straight.
No.
Yeah, they could be an accountant or whatever, but they found themselves in sales.
Yeah.
They did a bit of sales. They understood the business from that angle. Maybe they even worked in distribution or whatever. And they have this zigzag path that eventually led them to become CEO, because at the board of directors, non-executive directors board, when they were sitting, where they were like, who has that all-round experience whom we can give this job? And that person who did that whole zigzag was the most preferred candidate. And they end up in that seat.
Exactly.
So we need to think in that direction, whether you're in HR or wherever. Even HR can become CEO, but you need to be able to appreciate and get an all-round experience and not
Business.
just purely focus on one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the CEO is the person who understands business the most. I'm guessing that's the expectation, has a touch
Exactly.
of operations, finance,
Indeed.
HR itself. The key for that leader is to be able to walk in any room and have nobody lie to them. But for you not to be lied to, you don't need to have that depth, but you need to have a level of understanding where you can say,
Exactly.
no, this is not happening. So if you then ground yourself and overly isolate yourself, which is a tragedy for, I think, for most,
Absolutely.
the level of detachment, you know, and it becomes very sad and worse if you're a leader and you seem more detached than the people following you, because the respect that they have, it all falls, it starts to fall away, because now it's, but what is this man talking about?
Yeah.
You know, so I think
To add on what my brother, was saying, and these are the things, that we emphasize, to our managers, the people whose work you are managing. You would want them one day. One of your assignments is to develop your people so that one of them one day will take over from you. And how do you help them do that? If you are supervising 3-4 sub-functions, how do you ensure that each of these 3 managers you have or officers you have below you will have the same chance of getting to your position? Is rotating them.
Yes.
In human resource today, you are an employee relations manager. Next year, I'm moving you to training and development. Another year, I move you to human resource planning. Another year, I move you to reward management. Another year, I'll move you, so that by the time I'm done, all of you would have gone around and understood the entire radius of human resource management. And then you can contest for that position. That is the future. But people, will be comfortable. These are comfortable zones. Me, I'm an employee relations manager. That is all I'm good at. How do you become director? How do you become head of this function?
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Gentlemen, it has been great. It's been inspiring and insightful. Really, really grateful having the both of you on our show. And we hope that our audience were able to pick up a thing or two, a lesson, also words of encouragement, and also an understanding of how the HR function works and how it's evolved over time from inception to where we are right now. From all of us at Money and People Podcast to you, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And it is bye.